If you want to check us out as a show, we're of course on Facebook too, which is facebook.com/VGM Awesome, and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/VGM Awesome. So pretty much any social media, just put a / and VGM Awesome or Bradley City Radio, and we're pretty much there because we're so amazing. Nice. Oh dear. Anyway, so gentlemen.
Yeah.
I finished my little.
How to follow that?
Back in the room.
Back in the room. Okay.
Yes.
Sound design. Hit me.
Sound design. You want to talk about sound design?
I would like to. Yes, please.
Okay. Well, what makes good sound design in games? So, let's look at some games and let's talk about sound design for games.
I love how you like started that paragraph with a heading. It's cool. The chapter.
The main reason why we've got sound effects in games is for two things really: feedback for user input. Like you do something, sort of like you press the right button, like when you're playing Solid Snake, Metal Gear rather, and you open up your infantry, like it makes a sound, so you pressed a button, or you want it there for immersion, part of the aesthetics of it. So there's lots of parallels to the film world when we're talking about environments. So like you want to so you don't have you can't see a road, for example, but you can imagine it's there if you play the sound of the road. Like, say, if you're in a building in a basement.
Guerrilla filmmakers use this technique all the time when they can't afford to go near a road.
So they use sound,
or a car.
So they use sound to suggest a world.
Oh yeah.
Now,
you wouldn't believe.
Tomb Raider is a really good example of this, because if you're just running around these tombs, these underground lairs and stuff, you can just use sound like distant water. Or the murmur of zombies or the undead, just to suggest in the world that you live in, and games like Skyrim do that very well as well.
Right, so, I haven't played that yet. Looking forward to it. Go.
Why not? What have you been doing?
I don't know. Playing other things, I guess. Playing super tennis. Clearly. Go.
So sound also plays a vital part in conjunction with the aesthetics of it as well. So if a game, say, is very kind of 8-bitty, and then it's playing huge musical sound scores, like huge musical events over the top, orchestral events over the top of this 8-bit thing, it just wouldn't match in a normal kind of everyday world. It might work for what you're trying to do, but that's another story.
Okay.
But it's really important. It's very difficult to get sound design correct for films. It's very similar for games. It's very difficult. It's very similar. Very similar to films. It's very difficult to do it for games because this from filmmaking is like the sound is vital to your film, and if it kind of sounds a little shoddy, then it's very difficult to believe in that world.
Yeah, certainly with any films, if there is bad sound design or bad soundtrack or anything, it's instantly labelled and instantly felt as like a student film. Yeah, that's the gut feeling. It's like
really
student.
When we made Ultraviolet, we put a lot of time into polishing it because we had to sell it and we had to make it sound and look really good. So I spent a lot of time doing the sound effects for the collection of these gems that you collect off the board, and it went through numerous iterations. And the first iterations, they were kind of too pinging, too loud in your ear, if you know what I mean, and they were too kind of simple. So then I kind of took it a little bit further and tried to make it sound unique a bit and taking influences from Half-Life. But then, it became too repetitive because you were collecting these gems all the time. So then we kind of arrived at this sound which was unique, but it wasn't so kind of overpowering. It was kind of subdued, but you knew a very collecting kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
So there's some excellent games that have some really good sound design. Half-Life.
Very much.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Half-Life is very similar to Zelda and the Final Fantasy series, where they've created these sound libraries and they've used them again and again in subsequent games, and that kind of gives it a theme, and that sound becomes synonymous.
Certainly with that game, that franchise, and that developer. It's almost like within a sound. It's like a soundtrack or a soundboard in itself, isn't it? It's just a collection or library of those sounds.
Yeah, it's like the aesthetic, the sound aesthetics of the game.
Those particular sound things stay with you as well. The ones that are associated with an entire series, like the Zelda. You know the opening a chest noise in Zelda.
Yeah.
Like for example, if I find money on the floor, like I did. This morning I found...
Don't say you sort of hum it in your head.
I found 20... I kind of hum it in my head. Yeah, exactly. I kind of hear that still, and that's from playing it many years ago, and a bit now. But also, it just kind of lingers, doesn't it?
Sound triggers a lot of nostalgia as well. So, we're talking about immersion, okay? Battlefield 3 does sound immersion so well. It's incredible. And you really feel like you're on this battlefield, and this whole battle is taking place around you because in like normal like first-person shooters, what we do, you just have like the sound just kind of reducing volume if somebody's further away. But in Battlefield 3, they try to recreate the reverberation of that bullet depending on the landscape. So if you're down in the tunnels, you'd be a lot more accurate.
Nice.
Also, if you're over a distance, you just hear the sonic crack of the bullet rather than the actual explosion from the barrel.
Yeah.
So it gives that sense of kind of like space.
And distance, you know, between that and the actual action.
Bejeweled, okay, sound design for that is incredible. Okay, the reward feeling from that is so good. Like those sounds are really repetitive, but every time like a chink of like the gems, or you collect something and you hear that sound of you getting some points, it's incredible, and it becomes like the sound becomes addictive in a way.
Yeah,
it's
it does.
really good.
I mean, certainly from your point of view, being a sound designer, I mean, you know, this must be something. Whenever you play a film, play a game, sorry, and watch a film, you know, you're obviously sort of watching out for that. I mean, who do you think at the moment? I mean, I guess they're not really big names, say, with composers, directors, or anything. But can you sort of name a couple that are really? You're smiling with that because you can. But like, or let's say games, or you've mentioned a few, but mention some films that have really
films,
yeah,
or games,
or both. You've mentioned some games, but mention some films that have some really, really tight sound design.
Oh God, there's quite a few.
Give me two before we go to a track.
Oh my God, the Matrix.
Yes.
Sweet.
Help me out here, Ross.
For great sound design.
Tron? No, Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim.
That's a great one actually, because obviously Scott Pilgrim being it's a video game film, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
it nailed it perfectly.
Kind of recreating that 8-bit kind of sound, but also making it very contemporary.
But it embedded it in the world as well, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It became part of the thing.